Okay. So what we've got today is subject of the formula when the subject is in two places. Okay? And the key to that is we have to bring all of the elements that have the subject in it to one side and then factorize the subject out. Okay? Seems quite straightforward. So we'll get into a couple of questions and you'll be able to see how that works. Okay, so that rule to remember is right here. So you have to bring every element attached in bracket by multiplication to the subject to one side of the equals to sign and factorize the subject out. We're going to see how that works with the very first question. QP squared is equal to 3Q plus 52. Make Q the subject of the formula. Okay, so making Q the subject of the formula means getting Q all on its own on one side. Okay, but the problem is I have Q in two places. Okay, so the first thing I do is to bring everything that has a Q attached to it all to one side. So there's a Q attached to P squared, there's a Q attached to 3, I put all of them to one side. Okay, so how do I get 3Q on the same side as QP squared? First of all, let me expose the signs. That's plus 3Q plus 52. Now, if I want to get rid of 3Q or plus 3Q from the right, I have to use the opposite sign, which is a minus. So I subtract 3Q from the right. Now I can put the minus 3Q here, or I can put it here, right next to the plus 3Q. It will still give the same result. Okay? And because I've done that to the right, I have to do that to the left. Now, on the left, I have QP squared minus 3Q. And on the right, the plus 3Q minus 3Q here is 0. So it just vanishes and we have 52. In fact, we have plus 52, but since it's a plus, I can hide that sign away. Okay? Now, next thing to do, everything with Q is on one side, so I factorize Q out from the left. How do I do this? We have covered this in a previous video, but I will briefly cover it here again. But for full understanding, you should have watched the previous video and understood it before you get to this point. Okay? So, that's Q times P squared minus 3 times Q. So breaking it down is equal to 52. Now we can see that Q is a factor here and Q is a factor here. So factorize, dealing with factors. So we take that factor out and I bring in what's left. On the left, it's just P squared, the minus, and on the right, 3. Now, are we done? No, because we want Q on its own. Now, since Q is outside the bracket, there's only one Q now instead of Q in two places. So what we then do is divide the left by P squared minus 3 to get it away from the one Q. Now, because I've done that to the left, I've got to do that to the right. So I have 52 over p squared minus 3. Okay? And to finish that off, q is simply equal to 52 over p squared minus 3. You can leave the brackets on or you can take it off. Okay? On the left, p squared minus 3 at the top and p squared minus 3 at the bottom take care of each other. And by take care, I mean get rid of each other. So we just have q left. And on the right, that's where our answer comes from, which is 52 over p squared minus 3. Now we can say our job is complete because we have made q the subject of the formula. P is equal to 2a plus 2b over b minus 10. Make b the subject of the formula. Now, this question is interesting because in the last question I said the first thing you want to do is get the subject on the same side to factorize out. But b is on the same side for both of them. The problem is it's not the way we want it. Because if you remember, in the first question, there were no fractions. It was flat. And that's the first thing we need to do. We need to make this flat. On the left, we have p. On the right, that's not flat. That's a fraction. We need to get rid of that. So how we do that is to get b minus 10 off the bottom there. So b minus 10 is connected with a division sign. So we use a multiplication sign to get rid of b minus 10 from the bottom, like so. Now, as I do this, I should also note that some people might use cross-multiply method, but you'll still end up at the same point that I'm going to end up at. So, to get rid of b minus 10 from the right, I multiply by b minus 10. I'm going to put that in a bracket. And because I have done that to the right, I've got to do that to the left. Now, on the right, the b minus 10 at the bottom and the b minus 10 at the top, they get rid of each other, and I have 2a plus 2b. So the fraction is gone on the right. On the left, we have to open that bracket now, and that's why I put the bracket in. Because when p is multiplying b minus 10, it's not just multiplying b, it's multiplying the whole thing. And that's why the bracket was necessary. Okay? So to expand that bracket, or to open that bracket, p times b is pb. And p times minus 10 is minus 10p. Okay. So now we have a flat. No fractions on either side. Once we've done that, the next thing to do is to get everything that has a b to one side and everything that doesn't have a b connected to it to another side. Okay? So in this case, I choose all of b's will have to go to the left, and anything that doesn't have a b will go to the right. So I'm going to get rid of minus 10p from the left. It has a minus, so I'm going to use the opposite sign to get rid of it, or the inverse sign, which is a plus sign. So I say pb minus 10p plus 10p on the left. Now, because I have done that to the left, I'm going to do that to the right. Okay. Now, on the left, minus 10p plus 10p, that's 0, so they get rid of each other, and I only have pb is equal to, now, I have pb on the left. Remember, everything that has a b attached, I need to put it to one side. Everything that doesn't have a b attached to the other. Now, everything that doesn't have a b attached is already on the right, but 2b, since it's got a b attached, I'm going to get it to the same side as pb. Okay, so to get rid of 2b from the right, it has a plus sign, so I use the inverse or opposite sign to get rid of it, which is a minus sign. So I have 2a plus 2b minus 2b plus 10b. And because I've done that to the right, I've got to do that to the left. And so that just becomes pb minus 2b is equal to 2a plus 2b minus 2b. That's a 0, so it vanishes. So it becomes just plus 10p. Okay. Now, everything that has b is on the left, but we want b as a subject of the formula in one place. So, what do? I factorize b out from both of them. So b comes out from the left. What's left is only p, and from the right element, just minus 2. And that's equal to 2a plus 10p. Now, b is attached to p minus 2 by an invisible multiplication sign. Okay? So to get rid of p minus 2 from around b, you have to use the opposite or the inverse sign, which is a division. So I divide the left by p minus 2, and because I've done that to the left, I've got to do that to the right. You can leave the bracket there or you can take it off. Now on the left, p minus 2 at the bottom and p minus 2 at the top, they get rid of each other. And so we just have b on the left, and on the right, we just have 2a plus 10p all over p minus 2. And we're done. Because b is all on its own on the left as the subject of the formula, and on the right, we have everything else. Okay? Now, mp is equal to 3n plus 5p. Make p the subject of the formula. Now, unlike the last question, this is flat. So, we just have to get everything that has a p attached to it to one side. And I think I choose to get all the p's to the left. So, to get 5p, or in this case, plus 5p to the left, I have to use the opposite or the inverse sign of plus to get rid of 5p from the right. So that would make it minus 5p. Now, because I have done that to the right, I can do that to the left. So, let's carry on. On the left, I still have mp minus 5p, and on the right, 5p minus 5p, that's 0, so it vanishes. So we just have 3n. Now, our goal is to make P the subject of the formula, and everything that has P, we have it all together on the left. But we don't want 2 P's, we want 1 P. So I factorize P out from both elements on the left that have P. And so in the bracket, P comes out, and I have M for this element left in the bracket, and for this element, I have minus 5 equal to 3M. Now, I can complete this because all I have to do is get rid of M minus 5 in a bracket away from P. So it's attached to P with an invisible multiplication sign. So I use a division sign, which is an opposite sign or inverse sign, to get rid of it, like so. Okay, now because I have done that to the left, I have to do the same to the right. Now, on the left, M minus 5 in a bracket at the top gets rid of M minus 5 in a bracket at the bottom. So I just have P on the left, and on the right, 3n over M minus 5. Now you can keep the brackets, or you can drop the brackets around M minus 5. Okay? And we're done, because P is the subject of the formula. Now, we have 2t minus 5 is equal to 7t plus 30 over u. Make t the subject of the formula. Now, to make t the subject of the formula, it means to get t on its own on one side. But we always have to start with a flat. There's a flat on the left, or on the right. That's a fraction. So we need to get rid of u on the bottom on the right, so we can have flats on both sides. Okay? So u is connected to 7t plus 30 with a division. So we have to use the opposite or inverse sign to get rid of it from the bottom, which is a multiplication sign we have to use, like so. Okay? Now, because we've multiplied by u on the right, we've got to do that to the left. Now, because u is multiplying all of the left, not just 2t or minus 5, all of it, so I put that in a bracket and multiply by u. Okay? Now on the left, u multiplied by 2t is 2t u. And u multiplied by minus 5, that's minus 5u. And that's equal to u at the top and u at the bottom here. Get rid of each other. So we just have 7t plus 30. Okay. Now, t is on the left, and t is also on the right here, and on the left here. Okay? So, to make t the subject of the formula, I have to get everything that's got t attached to it on one side, which is going to be the left, and I have to get everything that doesn't have a t attached to it to the right. So I'm going to start by getting rid of minus 5u from the left and getting it on the right. So, to get rid of minus 5u from the left, I use the opposite sign or inverse sign of the minus, so I use a plus sign, like so. Now, because I've done this to the left, I've got to do it to the right. Okay, so on the left, minus 5u plus 5u, that's 0, so it vanishes. So all I have left is 2tu is equal to 7t plus 30 plus 5u. Now, we're not done. The other part of this is to get 7t to the same side as 2tu. So everything that has a t can be all together on the left. Okay? So, to get rid of 7t from the right, I have to use the opposite sign of 7t. Now 7t has an invisible plus sign. I'm going to expose it right now here. And so because it has an invisible plus sign, I'm going to use the opposite sign or inverse sign, which is a negative sign, to get rid of it from the right. Now because I have done that to the right, I've got to do that to the left as well. So on the right, plus 7t minus 7t, that's 0, so that vanishes, and so all we have left on the right is 30 plus 5u. Now, there are two t's in different places, so to get it all in one place, I factorize t out from both of them, and so from 2tu, I have 2u left when I factorize t out, and from minus 7t, I have minus 7 left when I factorize t out. Now, we have t in one place, but it's also attached by an invisible multiplication sign to 2u minus 7 in a bracket. So, to get rid of 2u minus 7, I use the opposite of the inverse sign, which is a division, to get rid of 2u minus 7 from around t. And because I have done that to the left, I've got to do that to the right. And finally, on the left, 2u minus 7 at the top and 2u minus 7 at the bottom get rid of each other. And so we just have t. And on the right, we just have 30 plus 5u at the top. And you can drop the bracket if you like, or you can leave it in. And at the bottom, you just have 2u minus 7. In my case, I dropped the bracket. So t is the subject of the formula. Okay. Finally, p is equal to half q plus 3 over 5p. Now, it says make p the subject of the formula. Another way to ask this question, and the same process will apply, is write p in terms of q. Okay? It's another way of saying make p the subject of the formula. Okay? So, make p the subject of the formula. I can also say write p in terms of q. The same process will apply. It simply means get p on one side on its own and q on the other side, or everything else on the other side. Okay? Now let's start the process. I have a p here on the left, and I have a 3 over 5p here on the right. So I have to get everything that has a p attached to one side, and that side, I choose it to be the left. So, to get rid of 3 over 5p from the right, I use the opposite sign, or the inverse sign, to get rid of it. It has a plus, I use the negative sign, or you can call it a minus sign. And so, because I have done this to the right, I've got to do this to the left. Okay? Now, I'm going to do the right first. 3 over 5p minus 3 over 5p, that's 0, so that vanishes. And I just have half q left. Okay? Now, here, I'm going to expose something that I didn't show before. P can also be written as 1p. So I factorize p out, because there's p in two places. And all I have in the bracket is 1 minus 3 over 5. Okay, when I take p out of here to factorize it, only 1 is left. When I take p out of here, only minus 3 over 5 is left. Now, you should know how to subtract fractions by now. We've covered it in a previous session. You should have understood it before you get to this point. So 1 minus 3 over 5 That will get me 2 over 5 if I'm doing it as a fraction. And if I'm doing it as a decimal, it's 0.4. And that's equal to, now I'm going to write half q in a different way. I'm going to write it as q over 2. And the reason why is half q is the same as saying half times q. Okay? And if you do half times q, it's q over 2. Okay? Now, I want to get p as a subject of the formula, so I'm going to get 2 over 5 away from it. P is connected to 2 over 5 by an invisible multiplication sign. So I've got to use the opposite or the inverse sign, which is a division, to get rid of 2 over 5 from around P. So I'm dividing by 2 over 5 on the left. And because I've done that to the left, I'm going to do that to the right. But I'm going to write it in a very different way. So q over 2 is going to be divided by 2 over 5, where I'm going to write it like this. Now, on the left, you can put a bracket if you want, or you can take it off. 2 over 5 at the top and 2 over 5 at the bottom cancel each other out, and p is left. And on the right, how do we divide? Q over 2. We change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and as a result, we flip the second fraction, which is also a way of saying we write the reciprocal. Flipping a fraction is writing the reciprocal. So that's 5 over 2. Okay? Now, P is equal to Q times 5. That's 5Q. And 2 times 2 at the bottom, that's just 4. So P is the subject of the formula, and it's equal to 5Q over 4. And at the same time, we can also say P is in terms of Q. Okay? Different way of writing a question, but the process to getting the answer is the same. Okay, so we're done. Remember, practice as many questions as possible, using the videos as a help and a guide, and over time, it will make perfect sense. Okay? Practice, practice, practice is always the key to getting better. Okay? Thank you very much. You've been listening to the Math Done, and until next time.